Welcome back, everyone. Today, I am going to be fixing my KitchenAid. I've had this for many years. My awesome aunt gave this to me, and today we are going to do a little bit of maintenance on it. So one of the issues I have is the lock on the other side. It's just the switch back there. So it opens up, and then you flip the switch, and it locks it. But it doesn't. It just pops itself back out every time. So whenever I'm mixing something, I literally have to hold it here or else it'll pop itself up and it'll jump up and down. So we're gonna tear into this. It's actually very easy from what I've seen. So we're gonna do that. And while we're in here, I've also ordered some new grease since it's never been done. Plus, you know you need it when you do start getting like the grease leaking down. I think that's the original grease because it does melt and seeps out and gets pretty nasty. So we're gonna swap the gear grease out that's up in here. So let's get this thing taken apart. And for this job, you really don't need a whole lot. The most important thing you're gonna need is some grease specifically for this. You'll need a hammer, preferably a rubber mallet. You'll need some sort of punch. I just have an old dull drill bit, as long as it's the correct size for our punching needs. A flathead and a smaller flathead, and a Phillips screwdriver. Of course, rags, paper towels, as much as possible. This is greasy. So the first thing we need to do to get started is take off this Phillips head screw. So we're gonna pop in here and remove this. Now that we have that removed, we're just gonna wiggle that back, and then we're gonna jostle this out. Now it's got little clips in here, so it's gonna come up. And once we have that, we'll set that next to our screw over there. And I'm actually really surprised this thing is super clean. I use it sometimes. I don't use a lot of flour, so maybe that's why. But now that we're back here, we've got two more Phillips head screws. We're gonna remove those so we can take this, this ring that goes all the way around off. And once they're removed, we can just pop these out on both sides. There we go. And then slide it forward. It just kind of falls off. There's definitely gonna be some grease around here if you do need to re-grease. Like mine, it's never been done. It's gonna start to leak. That's gotta be cleaned up. And same thing with the outside. I try to keep it as clean as possible, but that's as much as I've done when it comes to cleaning it. But now that that is off, we're gonna flip this around and look at her. She's naked. But anyway, we are going to take off this chrome bit here. And in order to do that, it just comes down, but you're gonna give it some love taps. So just pop this right in here. And just like that, very light taps. And we got the ring. Oh my God, that is a lot of grease. Well, that's why it's been leaky. It's all melted. It's like a puddle. All right, now that we have that ring off, let's get this tilted back like so. And there's gonna be a punch right here. As you can see, there's that punch out that we need to get. It's a pin, and we just basically need to put something that's similar size. I just have an old drill bit that's dull. Use something, but I'm just going to find something that is approximately that size, pop it in there, tap it out so I can get it out. I don't have any special tools for punches, so work with what you got. Oh no, pin down. I found it on the ground, but it is literally just a pin that is in there. But now that we have that pin out, this whole assembly can come down. So we're going to try to grab this maybe down here, be a little bit easier. Well, that's not working for me. So let's try to get a little bit of gentle persuasion in here. There it goes. Woo! Yeah, I don't even know if that's grease anymore. Well, as you can see, there is basically no grease in here. So it's a really good thing that I'm doing the grease while I'm in here. So the next step is to take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these flathead screws around here. We're gonna take all those out and put them off to the side. And here is a look at what the screws look like, the 5 screws. And once those 5 screws are taken out, we only have 2 more. They're over here on the side. So there's one down here and one on the other side. They're right back here. Again, they are the flatheads. And then the screws for the back, the 2 longer screws. All right, we've got the 5 screws out on top. We got the 2 screws out on bottom. Almost forgot, there's 2 more screws under here. Again, flatheads. And here's the 2 screws that we just took out underneath. These look to be the exact same screws as the ones were over here on the back bottom. Now, before we take the whole top housing off, we need to make sure that the power cable is out of the way, since the power cable is hooked up right under here. So to do that, all we gotta do is grab it and pull it towards us, and it should slide out. That's probably the first time it's ever been out. All right, we have officially taken everything off that we need to take off. So the top part now should come out with some wiggles. Oh, there's some grease. Oh, it's solid. Oh, God. Oh, man, yeah. Yeah, we're definitely changing that grease. Look, it's a solid chunk. What is that doing? And would you take a look at that? This definitely needs to be re-greased. It's one or the other. It's either a solid chunk that's doing absolutely nothing, or it's completely burnt up and it's become a liquid. So let's get this lock fixed. So you can see there's the lever here, and it's connected through a rod, and then it has this hook. This hook is a thing that locks it. You can see there's a little space for it to go down below there, but when I do that, you can see that it kind of gets stuck sometimes. But the reason why it does that is you can kind of see there's a groove there, and there's also another groove up there. So if it doesn't want to go in there properly, or there's any sort of weird tension or anything, it's going to get stuck on its way down. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this hook off, and all we're going to do is smooth this out so it doesn't have those bumps, so it can easily just drop down in there. So pretty easy. It's a Phillips head screw, so we're going to go ahead and take, ooh, wrong one. We're going to take that out. Once we take that screw out, this part, the lever, is free. Now the only thing holding the hook into place is this little screw down here, which is again another flathead. So make sure you get a small enough flathead to fit in there, and we're gonna take that screw out. I found myself the proper sized flathead, so we're gonna spin this loose, and once it's loose, you should be able to grab it, and it's just a pin that looks like that comes straight out. We're gonna save that with the rest of our stuff in here. See, it's already leaking. Grease isn't supposed to be leaking. It's supposed to be a solid, but not that solid. Anywho, that pin is out, which means we should just be able to grab this and lift it straight out. Ta-da! But this is the issue we're talking about. See how there's grooves up there and right there? Either get a file, grab some concrete flooring, whatever you can to smooth this out and take a little bit of material off. I think that looks pretty good. We just took a little bit of that metal off of the top, made it nice and smooth. So now I can plop everything back up in here and put that pin in, and we'll test and see how it fits. Okay, so I've done a little bit of back and forth. I just temporarily have the pin in here. I barely even have it screwed in, just so I can get it aligned. Same thing with the screw up here, just finger tight so I can figure out the furthest point that it goes this way. Gotta make sure that's flat. But you can see that it actually falls completely into the hole now. Like once it's completely maxed out to this position, it's got a little bit of slack before it pulls it up. Before it was stopping like right there. It was hitting on that. But I've ground down the angle. Didn't get rid of too much. You can see it's still nice and beefy. It'll hold this. But now you can see it like really dips down in there, and it's gonna get a nice hold. But of course, the check is to put it in the locking position, make sure the screw's nice and tight so this doesn't wobble anywhere. That's also another thing. If you got a lot of wobble, the screw is probably loose, but nice and tight there. And of course, we just lift up on this, put some pressure down here on the bottom, and see if we get any sort of slipping out or popping free, or like it was before where it just like pop itself up. All right, we're locked. Yeah, that's locked. That is not going anywhere. For this screw, don't tighten it too tight or else you will not be able to move this. The tighter you make this, the more stiff you make this lever moving. So if you want a little bit looser, loosen this. If you want it a little bit tighter, maybe you got a lot of wobble in play, like mine is solid. If you got a lot of wobble in play, tighten this screw up. Now, this has gotta go. So I'm gonna start with some paper towels to get rid of the globby gloopy. And oh my God, oh, what in the, this thing is gonna be silent by the time I'm done. That's what that smell was. All right, so I scraped up most of it with a paper towel, but there's still a lot more cleaning that I wanna do. So we'll take it apart a little bit further, try to get a little bit more of this old stuff out of here. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to take this main, I guess, pin out. All right, so now we're gonna start digging into it, and I do suggest some sort of glove of any kind, because it is not easy to get off, even with some soap like Dawn. Doesn't really help too much, so just a little pointer. So in order to get this out, we can lift it up, and you can see there's a pin. If we push that pin, that's what's keeping it from coming down. We're gonna take this pin out like that, and the whole thing should drop through the bottom. Now that that is out, we should be able to just take this whole piece, oh my God, and do some cleaning under here. That is just straight gunk. Also a note here, there is a washer. See how mine was stuck right there? There is a washer that goes there to the bottom part of their mating surface. And after a good wipe, we've got even more of the old grease off. Now, if you want to take off this whole piece here and give it a little extra clean, I'm not going to really do a whole lot more to it, but if you do want to take it off, you just take them off by the 3 Phillips. So 1, 2, and the third one right there. This whole housing can come off. You can break this completely down if you want. All right, so I did end up taking this off. It, again, was just those 3 screws, very simple. And I did take it off just to make it easier cleaning. Like I wanted to try to get like behind the gears. You see how you can see light like up through the gears. There's a lot of caked on stuff around the back, around the sides. So I just went in there and really tried to get all the dried up gross stuff that was out of there, like that gunk. So now that that's cleaned up, I'm gonna pop this one back on and we can move on. Now, if you really do wanna get into like the little gears and everything, there's a few different ways to do it. You can use a screwdriver, but I have found that a toothbrush actually works quite well. If you just come in here and get the toothbrush and just come down, like it'll come right off, and then have a paper towel to wipe off the grease that you just got out of those teeth. It works beautifully. All right, so I really highly suggest the toothbrush as a method. It is amazing. I went through, I cleaned everything. You can see how wonderful it looks inside of everything. That one was really watery, so I have it tilted up like that. Clean the top out of there. Clean most of the schmutz out of there, around here, the gears, everything. So I am ready for some new grease. And in order to get this thing greased up, we need to have a specific lube. This is the most popular, let's say, third party. You can get KitchenAid, but I believe this stuff is much better. It says on here that it promises that to not pretty much turn into a liquid like some of this did, but you also need to make sure that this is a very specific kind. Right here, food grade. So the lubricant you put in here needs to be food grade just in case some of it drips or leaks or whatever and gets into the food that you're using this for. So it needs to be food grade. So the first thing we're going to do is going to put this entire contraption back on. But before we put it back on, we're going to grease it. So we're gonna grab some grease and we're gonna start to pack it in here around the wheels and really get it rotated in all of those little cogs. We're gonna put it down here and then we're gonna rotate it. See how there's that big empty spot? I'll put a little extra in there, rotate it some more. And now we are all set. We've got everything packed in there and we're gonna do the same thing up top. I'm gonna get underneath and also up top. I'm gonna rotate that through to get it all worked in. Now we have this grease packed. We're going to set it up top back where it was. There is a little divot on the underside, if you can see it here. Right here, we've got a little divot. That is gonna go into the little set piece up here. We're gonna set that in place. And then it's just gonna fall in. Now we're gonna add our 3 screws back. So next up, we are going to coat the bottom here, which is where our gear is gonna sit. So grab a glob. And coat the bottom. So after we get the top lubricated, I'm just gonna put a little bit of lubrication on this pin so it'll slide up a lot easier. And don't forget, we've got 2 washers, so one of them is gonna come up here on top, and the other one, we're just gonna slip over this, so it'll go on the bottom. So we're gonna slip this up and get that fed through. We're not gonna come all the way through because we need to put this gear on top, like so. And now that it's fed through, we need to push it all the way up. And to get this locked in place, don't forget we've got our little pin, so we're gonna push the pin through like that. And then we can pop this back down a little bit and then rotate it into its place. Now we're all set. Now that we have this all in place, we're gonna get a buttload of grease and we're going to do all of the above. Everything gets grease. All the teeth get some grease, everything up here. Nice coating. And you can spin this gear up here or you can spin it down here. Either way, you can move it through. Make sure the grease gets passed through on all sides. Once we're done with that, we can grab our gasket. It's gonna look just like this, and put it over the top, and we're gonna have this little pin right down here that it's gonna fit through, and then have everything else lined up nice and greasy. And next up, the top portion where this is gonna go into. So same thing, we are going to lubricate all around here, on the inside, around this gear, which is actually pretty sharp. It tore my glove. And then right on the inside, deep in there, we're gonna get everything packed, filled with this good new lube. That was probably too much. Once we have that all set up, now we can take the housing and place it back on top. Just make sure the wires and the power cable are not pinched in there anywhere. They're routed correctly through the back. All right, we've got the top housing here. And all of our wires through the back. And set it on top. And it's not going in all the way, which is perfect, just so I can make sure everything in the back is routed correctly. It's not gonna get smashed. So I've got my cords out the back, so that's fine. And those 2 wires on the inside, they're not laying on the outer edge, they're tucked on the inside, so that's perfect. So I'm gonna give it a little wiggle, and it doesn't seem to be going in, which is fine. We'll take the bottom and we will rotate the gears. There we go. Now it's all set into place. But now that that's in, I'm gonna come around the back and attach this in. You can see there's a rounded side and a flat side. The flat side is gonna be pointing out. We're gonna get that and clip it in there. So that's nice out of the way. And now we're gonna come to the front and we're gonna come underneath. Now that we have this tilted up, we are going to put in the screws to make sure this all stays together. So the 5 screws that we're gonna start with are the ones that look like this, that have the thread at the top and not at the bottom. These are going to be the 5 around the edge. All right, now that we have those tightened, we can grease up the inside. So we're gonna grab some grease and we're gonna go around the edge and get all the little teeth inside here. And while I'm here, I'm also gonna put in these 2 screws and the back 2 screws. And last but not least, we are going to grease this gear right in here. And we've got a nice amount of grease on there. Now before I put this up, I wanna make sure that the hole that goes through there where that pin goes is nice and clear. So I'm gonna grab my little piece and get rid of all that extra stuff. Make sure that's nice and cleaned out. There we go. And now we're gonna install this. Now this one, we just line the middle hole up, of course, to where it's going. Right through there. There we go. This one might be a little difficult to get started, but once it gets in, now we are all set. Nice and smooth. But now that we have it in place, now we need to line up this hole to the hole on that shaft. So as we rotate this around, eventually you'll get to the place where it looks like this. Now, if it doesn't look like this, that's totally fine. That just means that this pin is not flush. If you have it pushed all the way up like I did, you'll look in and you'll see kind of a half crescent there, or a full crescent. But all you have to do is get whatever you had, like I had my little drill bit there, or if you have a punch, put it through there and kind of wiggle it in so it aligns up and it makes it nice and straight in a nice open hole like that. So now all we gotta do is grab our punch and we're going to slip this right in here. And once we have it set in place, we'll grab our punch or whatever object you have, put it right there on the tip, and just start tapping it in until it aligns up. I've got it almost all the way through, but I just need a few more love taps on here. All right, now we have all those in. We're gonna get this lowered down. I've got a little bit of grease and still got a bunch of stuff on here, so take this time to give her a nice clean. And once that's all complete, now we can put on our trim, so which is gonna come all through the top, right back where it was before. And then the 2 screws that hold it together. All right, all finished up. And last, we're going to grab our back piece here. Gonna put it on top, and then it's gonna pop in to place once you get it. There we go. Yeah, if you push down, it'll be fine. Pushing up will dislodge it. So right there is perfect. And we're gonna get our final screw and place it up top. And with that, that just leaves us with one more part, is our little trim piece here, which is just gonna come straight up. You can give it a nice smush up here, or if you have a rubber mallet, you need to tap it up here if it's not aligning correctly. I just have a hammer with me right now, so I've got a nice rag that I don't mind hurting, just to make sure it is nice and flush all the way around. And there we go. She is all nice and shiny, and we've got her working. So nice and solid, not going anywhere, not even a wiggle or a wobble. We've got it re-greased for another, hell, I don't know, 10 years. We are good to go. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this helps you out and saves you a ton of money, and I'll see you guys in the next one.